Namaha. Namaskar and welcome to Prana, the Life Force, a week-long series of webinars with two days of offline programs that we've already had in Bangalore, with live streaming brought to you by Indica Soft Power and Indica Yoga. A few weeks ago, we read a few articles and watched some YouTube videos about breath, and we were a tad disappointed that such scholarly articles on breath fail to allude to the centuries-old system of breathing, pranayama, that is followed in India even today. In the Indian ethos, all creation is divine, and we have divine entities ascribed to every action, element, and activity. The Devata for prana, the life force, is Hanuman. And we started our festival on Hanuma Jayanti. We have had Dr. Robert Swaboda, Dr. Ananda Bhavanani Balayogi, and then we have had Dr. Lata Venkatram, Dr. Prasanna speak. And then yesterday we had a very interesting program. We had two youngsters, Vinay Varanasi and Vivek Sadashivam, who's a singer. So Vivek Sadashivam sang, while Vinay Varanasi took small little stories from all our heritage literature about the interconnectedness of Hanuman and Prana. So they called their presentation Prananjaneya. They had a flautist and a mridangist also, and it was a very amazing event because it made us understand how beautifully in our culture it is a seamless kind of a connect between our devatas and all our daily activities of life. So in the Indian tradition, the ancient rishis in their laboratories did a lot of research on prana, the life force. And to see that this prana was resident in our bodies, they designed what they call pranayama, which is a certain system of breathing. And this is also starts your first steps to meditation and your mindfulness, as they call it today. And I think mindfulness is required in every aspect of life. So today we have with us Dr. W. Selvamurthy, an absolutely wonderful person. I won't introduce him because I will allow Dr. Deepa to introduce him. And we also have Dr. Deepa Prakash with us. And I will let Varsha, our senior researcher of the Indica Soft Power, introduce him. Over to you, Varsha.
Thank you, Auntie. Namaste, everyone. I am pleased to introduce Dr. Deepa Prakash, a very dear friend of Indica Soft Power. Dr. Deepa is a scientist at Kadamba, an organization working on green nanoscience, functional foods, and allied sciences. She is also a principal consultant at Annabrahma Consultancy. Dr. Deepa also works on IoT and AI in the food industry, medical sector, and agriculture from Aksya Technologies. She has earlier worked as a scientist at CSIR CFTRI in Mysore. We're so glad to have you with us this evening, Dr. Deepa. With that, I hand over the panel to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Varsha. It's a great privilege to introduce Dr. Selvamurthy at this talk. Dr. W. Selvamurthy is presently working with Amity University as President of Amity Science, Technology and Innovation Foundation, Director General for Amity Directorate of Science and Innovation, and Chancellor of the Amity University, Chhattisgarh. Dr. Selvamurthy did his Masters in Human Physiology from Christian Medical College, Vellore, and his PhD from Delhi University, and a Doctorate of Science from Bangalore. He has also been awarded Doctorate of Science by 5 universities in recognition for his outstanding research and development contributions in life sciences. Dr. Selvamurthy has served the prestigious Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, Government of India for 40 years, in which all the health-related and life science-related technologies were developed and inducted in the armed forces for keeping the health and efficiency of soldiers, even in extreme operational conditions. His biomedical research immensely benefited the armed forces personnel and gave a lot of spin-off benefits to the society at large. His R&D contributions include development of life support technologies for soldiers, nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare defense technology, nanotechnology application for defense, application of yoga for the armed forces, military psychology, and others. He was the leader of the first Indo-Soviet scientific expedition to the Arctic Circle for polar physiology research. He superannuated from DRDO on 28th of February 2013 as Distinguished Scientist and Chief Controller, Research and Development, Life Sciences and International Cooperation, and joined Amity University. He is presently member of the Scientific Advisory Committee to Cabinet, particularly in the field of life science, including health research. He is a member of the high-powered committee appointed by ICMR to review its 12th plan proposal and chairman of Technology Commercialization Committee of ICMR. He has published more than 250 research papers in journals of repute, including 18 books. He's been a member of the Indian delegation to the World Health Assembly under the chairmanship of Health Minister to speak about the complementary systems of medicine, including yoga. He has represented our country at the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons at the Conference of State Parties, Executive Council, Working Group, and Confidentiality Commission. TIFAC has entrusted the responsibility of Technology Vision Health 2035 to Dr. Selvamurthy as chairman to formulate vision for the nation for health and medical sciences till the year 2035. In recognition of a significant contribution to biomedical research and development, he has been awarded a number of prestigious research awards, including the CSIR National Award for Science and Technology Innovations presented by Honorable Prime Minister of India, Academician Mircea Mirakimov Award for the contribution to high altitude medicine at Kazakh Republic, Technology Leadership Award by DRDO, presented by the Defense Minister, Lifetime Achievement Award from Honorable President of India in the field of clinical and preventive cardiology, ICMR Shakuntala Amirchand Award, and more. Dr. Selvamurthy is someone I've heard of as a student, and the founding director of the Defense Food Research Lab used to always tell us that we need to be just like him. And the first time I heard him speak, I remember at CFTRI on invited lecture, is when I decided to be a scientist. He's by far one of the most compassionate human beings I know. One of his innate strengths is to bring a large group of scientists and a team of people to work together harmoniously towards a common mission. Although his awards are really large, I think one of his biggest awards is having all his science and technology implemented for the armed forces. In fact, today, if we see high altitude posting of the armed forces to be so comfortable, it's because of the years of research and development and science that he implemented and worked on for the soldiers from Deepa's DRDO. Over to you, Dr. Selvamurthy. Over to you, Dr. Selvamurthy. You will have to unmute yourself, please.
There is a power is just reducing. I just wanted to maybe give me.
Sure. So welcome back. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Deepa Prakash. First of all, my pranams to everyone. Let me start with Om recital. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. My gratitudes to Indica Soft Power, Miss Vijayalakshmi Vijay Kumar, Miss Varsha Venkatraman, and all others connected with the Soft Power, Center for Soft Power. I was just talking to the director, Dr. Miss Vijayalakshmi, about this Center for Soft Power. I was delighted to know the yeoman service this particular organization is providing to the society, humanity, and also to our country in terms of taking the Indian culture, the wisdom, knowledge to the global level to serve the humanity. So compliments to everyone who is associated with this great organization, Center for Soft Power. When I was just scanning through their activities, I was happy to see that during this COVID situation also, they had kept their activities vibrant, and also many webinars have been organized in themes related to Indian culture, wisdom, knowledge, and also the expertise and experience of our 5,000 or more than 5,000 years of civilization. So thanks to Mrs. Vijayalakshmi, Varsha, and all others. Dr. Deepa has been with us in DRDO. She did her PhD, and we supported her research related to the nutrition and how do you stimulate even the children, and how do you promote the healthy nutrition to the children. She did a wonderful project. How do you market the ideas related to nutritional requirements? So she is known to me for a long time. So compliments to you, Deepa, for the great job you are doing, and also with the entrepreneurs working, and also with the CFTRI, your association, and DFRL, and my compliments to you as well. Now I'm going to deal with the aspect on prana, the scientific aspects, because all of them have spoken about the philosophical aspects, the cultural aspects, but I'm going to spend next about 1 hour giving the scientific validation. When you say prana, what is prana? So the definition given by Upanishads, and also what do we mean by prana in physiological language? What do we mean by prana, and how does it influence the human health, efficiency, fitness? How does it help? So I'll show some scientific evidences at how the prana is really very helpful. Pranayama is helpful, yoga is helpful in promoting a positive health. So let me start sharing my presentation. Dr. Deepak, can you see the slides clearly?
Yes, please. I can see it clearly.
Yeah, thank you. So the topic which I have chosen, which was given to me by the Soft Power, Center for Soft Power, prana, fitness, and breath. And this topic has also been dealt with by yesterday, some speakers have talked and related to music. And like this, there has been a deliberation. So perhaps this will throw a little more light on the scientific aspects of it. Before we do that, again, my deep appreciation to Center for Soft Power. And this type of organization, after 75 years of independence, we need to project the glorious achievements of our country and the rich heritage of our the culture, civilization, Indian art, culture. All these are very, very important. So that is why this Center for Soft Power, my compliments and my best wishes and blessings for greater contributions in the years to come. Now, what is prana? Prana is not new, because you have been listening to this in many forums, and also particularly people who are concerned with the spirituality, yoga, Ayurveda, or any traditional knowledge and wisdom in the particularly not only in Hindu philosophy, it is there in Chinese, ancient, Roman, and also Islamic, Hebrew, Christianity, everywhere, the prana in a different, different connotations and also different nomenclature, it has been spelled out. But it's a Sanskrit word. First reference you find 3,000 years ago in Chandogya Upanishad. You will find that reference 3,000 years ago. We talked about the Indian, the culture talked about prana. This is one of the mainstay in Hindu, Ayurvedic, Hatha Yoga, Tantric Yoga, in all these aspects. Prana is the basic common denominator. And the whole philosophy and the psychology revolves around this, the word prana. And similarly, this reference is also there in Chinese, they call chi. And ancient Roman anima, ancient Greece, it is pneuma. And Islamic ruh, and Hebrew ruah, Christian Holy Spirit. So all this is prana. But then what do you think? You give different nomenclature depending on the language as well as the people, their culture, but they mean prana. It's an energy that pulses through the body along a network of subtle body channels. So there are nadis and there are chakras. So it is actually the prana flows through these, the channels. It's a subtle body channel. There is no actual tube or coming like a vein, artery and nerves like this, but then it actually flows through these subtle body channels through which the prana flows through. And it has a pulsatile flow. It's not just a static flow, it's a pulsatile flow. And it's a life force. It's a spiritual energy. And some people say it's vital winds. And the spirit or the soul, the Atma. Atma, is it the prana, is it Atma? So prana, when you leave, the prana leaves, the Atma leaves there. So it is almost synonymous, Atma and prana. So this is what is the basic understanding on prana one must have to understand the physiology and the psychology of it. And the types of prana you might have heard in the previous lecture, so I won't go into detail. And there are pancha prana. There is five types of prana. Prana vayu, apana vayu, udana vayu, samana vayu, and vyana vayu. It just shows the flow of energy. Some centrifugal, some centripetal. So like this flow inwards towards inwards and then outwards flow, lateral flows. So all this, the energy flows in all directions. So they call it as pancha prana. So in the Upanishad, it is mentioned, I will just exactly quote that, all the meaning of it. All that exists in the three worlds rests in the control of prana. Its mother protects her children like mother protects her children. Oh prana, protect us and give us splendor and wisdom. So this is what prana gives. It not only gives your good health, splendor, higher consciousness, wisdom, it also gives. So prana is very, very important. This is what is it is mentioned in Prashna Upanishad 2.13. Then it also becomes the source. Prana becomes the source for all movements in the body, because everything is vibrations, oscillations, movements. So this is prana, is nothing but every movement in the body. So it becomes the source. The prana becomes the source. Then it starts with the breath. Even though we always associate prana means breath, no. Prana is the life energy, where the breath becomes one of the important, the beginning or the source of the flow of energy. So prana, actually, it starts with the breath. Then it regulates your digestion, blood flow, and also excretory functions, and cellular growth and multiplication, and also regeneration, all healing. All this process is influenced by prana. So you can even have a self-healing. Your body can heal by itself. So if you enrich, if you empower your prana, then you can correct everything, even disorders in your body. This is what quantum healing, which Deepak Chopra says, when you have quantum healing in cancer regression, coronary artery regression, it's all because you are enriching your Atma Shakti, the prana. And then that in turn, once it flows through the energy, it removes the blockades, it removes the deficits, and ultimately the pathophysiology disappears. So it becomes a basic fundamental requirement for health. Animates and affects the quality of thoughts. See, even if you got tense, stressed, angry, or in a bad mood, just do some deep breathing, inhalation, breath hold, exhalation, in a very slow, rhythmic flow. You will find the change immediately, the relaxation of body and mind. So it actually helps you. You want to focus on giving a lecture. So I, in fact, did pranayama before I started this lecture. So it helps you to bring the quality of thoughts so that your reticular activating system in the brainstem, you have filters which will allow, does not allow the noise to go in, but only required the signals to flow in. So this is possible. So prana actually helps you to even decide, influence the quality of thoughts, because everything starts with thoughts. Then it becomes words, expressions, and actions. All this comes later. So it improves the quality of your thoughts, because our thoughts can have, one is good thoughts, bad thoughts, wasteful thoughts. So this breathing, if you concentrate on this prana, then you and your quality of thoughts, emotions, you won't get angry, depressed, and agitated, jittery. So it keeps you composed. Samatvam yoga vichyate. And also equanimity of mind, the balance of sympathetic, parasympathetic, all that, and also emotions, stability of your emotional intelligence. It strengthens that. So it also influences your emotions and ultimately consciousness. Your consciousness, which you want to elevate where you are, you want to reach to higher level of consciousness, the prana helps. Prana becomes the medium through which you can raise your consciousness. It also influences overall health and well-being, and it ultimately improves the circulation of prana, that is the energy flow in our body. So that is why prana is very, very important. So this lecture, I would request all of you to not only listen to it, I will also learn from you after the lecture, from the discussion, and your own perception, your own thoughts, your own experiences. I would like to learn from you, because we are all understanding the ancient Indian wisdom in our own way, from our own angles, like a physiologist, psychologist, philosophy expert, and so on. So in the nadis and chakras, now I am coming from breath to nadis and chakras. So there are three nadis. One is the sun channel, which is Pingala, and the moon channel, Ida, and the other one, central channel, Sushumna. So Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. So these are the three subtle the channels through which the energy flows. As a physiologist, there are reports to show that Ida, which you call moon, is actually parasympathetic system. When you breathe through that, the right side, when you do the fMRI, functional MRI, you'll find the activation in the right hemisphere of the cerebral cortex. And it also it activates your parasympathetic functions, vagal tone. So the Ida, it is moon, conservation of energy, cooling system in the body, the parasympathetic in the autonomic nervous system, that is influenced by your Ida. Then Pingala, you need exciting, because you need activation, you need sympathetic stimulation, you need energy when you need to be physically or mentally active. So at that time, the energy has to be given. So sympathetic gets activated. So the sun channel becomes much more, the heating channel becomes much more active. But then ultimate pure and bliss will come when that flow is through central channel. The energy flow is through the central channel. So Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna, which is the basic concept of the channels through which the prana flows. When prana is flowing freely in the central channel, we have reached samadhi. So when you do meditation, when you elevate your higher consciousness, this energy flow will happen through the sushumna. And the full integration takes place. Wisdom, pure thoughts, complete joy, and contentment flow through the central channel. So this is what we should aim at. So when you do Anolam, Vilom and all that, you are actually stimulating both the system. So ultimately, after a very long practice, then you will achieve that balance or the flow of energy through Sushumna, which is the ultimate aim of Pranayama and Yoga. Now, you need to understand also to link this prana into our own existence. We exist at 3 levels: Sthula Sharir, Sukshma Sharir, and Karana Sharir. Sthula Sharir, the physical body which you see with all the, the heart is functioning, breathing is there, metabolism is there, and all this which you see today, the physical body which with a naked eye which you can see is Sthula Sharir. There is another subtle layer which is Sukshma layer, Sukshma Sharir. Suppose you do thermography, you do electromagnetic radiation measurements or an aura photography, you will be able to, or Kirlian photography, you will be able to measure another layer, record actually another layer around the physical body. So which is even scientifically you can demonstrate that there is existing something else which you don't see with naked eyes. So there is a subtle level of existence. The third level of existence is Karana Sharir. And if I am giving lecture today to those people who are attending, there's a purpose for it. There's a Karan. I exist today in this lecture as a speaker. Is my role that I am playing Karana Sharir. I am existing with this role to deliver this lecture on prana. So that is the third level of existence, is your Karana Sharir. Even the physical body, there are 5 layers which you should understand if you have to understand prana. Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, Anandamaya Kosh. Physiologically, we can say these layers exist. Your dead body has everything what I have, but it does not have energy, it doesn't breathe, there is no heartbeat, and the brain is silent. So this is a dead body, the physical, the first layer, Annamaya Kosh. Then you put energy. Look at a comatose patient. That energy is there, respiration, heart is beating, but then that comatose patient may not know what is happening. So he has only 2 layers, Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh. Pranamaya Kosh. So there is energy level, but only at the Pranamaya Kosh level. It doesn't go beyond that. Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, Anandamaya Kosh. So this is what is the 5 layers of our Sthula Sharir of existence. Then the healthy breathing is very, very important. Most of our diseases are linked to improper breathing. I want to tell you, your breath is very, very important. And if you are not able to breathe properly, it can lead to many pathophysiological disease conditions. Everything starts with your pH shifts from relatively alkaline 7.4 to relatively acidic pH. Because when you are not breathing properly, the body gives energy through anaerobic metabolism. That means oxygen through anaerobic metabolic pathway, the ATP is produced and also the energy is given. So the system undergoes oxygen debt, like borrowing from the bank. You are borrowing energy from your reserves, as well as after depleting, you are getting into another debt, overdraft. So then that has to be replenished. So this is oxygen debt. So in the anaerobic process of metabolism, there is accumulation of metabolic end products like lactic acid, pyruvic acid. And these all put the feeling of fatigue, sensation of fatigue, and stop your activity or produces weakness and also tiredness. So when you are getting into, if your prana flow is not all right, your acidic pH at the cellular molecular level, when I say acidic, it becomes relatively acidic. And then that causes inflammation. Inflammation becomes one of the starting points for many diseases. So even for cancer, it starts with that. So that is why your breathing is important, proper breathing. And we don't breathe properly because of our tension, stress, anger, or sorrow, depression. Your breathing becomes shallow and also fast, shallow and fast. You might have seen a dog panting. So like that, we don't notice it, but there is a improper oxygenation of your system. So that is your starting point for ill health. So correct your breathing. You will be able to bring a good health. You will be able to correct some of the diseases which were linked with that. So to quote a monk, I am quoting from a monk, Thich Nhat Khan. He is a monk and teacher. Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness. Breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness. Consciousness is higher level of existence. And it unites your body to your thoughts. So body and mind is linked. That is yoga, to unite, to bring a harmony between body and mind is yoga. So yoga, the prana is the whole process of practice of yoga. It connects, unites your body and your thoughts. What body does, the thought is synchronized with that. So there is no dichotomy between mind doing something else and your body doing something else. So it brings the unification, union between mind and body is brought by breath as the means to take hold of your rest and stability. So this is very, very important. So your breath plays a very important role in your stability of your thoughts, your quality of thoughts, and also your health in terms of physical, mental health. So then it fuels the body and clears foggy mind. If you are tense, just practice it for just 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Deep inhalation, breath hold, deep exhalation. Deep inhalation, breath hold, deep exhalation. Just do it for 2 to 3 minutes. The clarity of thoughts, relaxation of body, it will lead to you the right response to a stimulus or right reaction to a stress. So all this can be achieved if you regulate your breath. So never forget the one message I want to give. Breath is important, which is the starting point for prana. Then it helps strengthen and relax muscles. It strengthens muscles. It also helps to relax muscles. Because once you gain strength, you also need to have relaxation. Otherwise, it remains all the time tensed. Then it also is a problem to the musculoskeletal joints. It leads to problem, pain, and so on. It reduces the heart rate, it slows down the heart rate because it's a cooling system. Your Ida becomes active. And then the vagal tone increases, parasympathetic tone increases. So your heart rate, blood pressure comes down. So it's a conservation of energy. Through the right kind of prana flow, you can regulate your heart, cardiovascular system. It also helps to control your emotions and fears. When you are, again, fearful, just do this deep breathing. Just Ujjayi Pranayama, Manolam below. You will find immediately a transformation in you. And it will help you to respond to those fearful or emotionally unstable situations. Reduces stress, anxiety, and depression is another thing. Then clear and sharper mind it gives you to take a decision. So it will give you, that is why before you take decision, you do some deep breathing or Anolam Vilom, you will get the right kind of the signal emerging to take decision. More happy hormones are secreted because there are evidences to show this. Endorphins, enkephalins, metenkephalins. And that gives you a happy situation. Life is a journey. One has to be happy, blissful, and not to be wasted with all the what we have lost or what we are going to worry about, what is going to happen. You have to be in the present. So connect with the breath. Breath is the present. Prana is the present. Pranayama is the present. So if you connect it, it gives that kind of happy situation. Now I will talk a little physiology because everybody starts with breath. How does prana connect to the breath? Breath is the starting point, as you said. how does prana or the energy is there at the cellular level? It needs two things. One is oxygen, the other one is nutrient. If the system has to survive, it requires these two things. The oxygen, it enters through your breath. When you do breathing in, you are taking oxygen inside. So this oxygen has to diffuse into your blood, like through the pulmonary capillaries. It has to be transported to the hemoglobin, which is there in the blood and the red blood cells. So this oxygen combines, and then it also unloads the carbon dioxide from the blood to the lung, the alveoli. So this happens at the breath. After your breath has reached there, then it goes to it diffuses into the red blood cells. It transports as oxyhemoglobin. Then the heart beats and pushes this to the tissues. And at the tissue, this oxyhemoglobin has to be dissociated, oxygen separately and hemoglobin separately. And that separation happens at the cellular level by 2,3-DPG, diphosphoglycerate. That's an enzyme there. Now that delivers that to the cells and tissues and cells. Now the cell has to utilize this oxygen. So there is an energy substrate like glucose, and immediately this oxygen which has entered the cell, there is a powerhouse which gives the energy to the cell, which is mitochondria. And you have cytochrome enzymes. So this powerhouse uses this oxygen which has been delivered to the cell and then releases the ATP and the energy. So this is energy. Energy, it comes to the system. So you need oxygen and you need nutrient. That is why the diet is also very important. If you have only oxygen and there is no proper diet, then again there's a mismatch, because you need the substrate where oxygen will act upon and then release the energy. So this is the physiological language I can define the prana, the energy to the cell. Now, the importance of prana I have mentioned. I think this slide again has come. One of the 5 principles of yoga is pranayama. What is pranayama? Pranayama, yama. There are 2 words, prana, yama. Prana means life force, life energy, the vital energy, the pranic energy. Yama means discipline or control. How do you regulate the control of the flow of energy without any kink? It has to flow through the channels which I mentioned, the nadis, chakras. So it has to flow through that. So the pranayama means it is the regulation or control or disciplining your flow of life energy. So that is pranayama. And pranayama means breathing techniques or breath control. So that is what is a simple definition of pranayama. Now coming to yoga, pranayama is very important part of the Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So these are the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. So in this prana is there in everything. If we say asana, there is also a breath control. When you say forward flexion, you breathe out, and extension, breathe in. So like that, even in asana, there is a association of the breath regulation with each asana. So yam niyam, diet, what you should do, what you should not eat. So again, yama niyama, disciplining your life, again prana. So prana is there in all the 8 limbs of this Ashtanga Yoga. And meditation, dhyan, the best way to control, every moment can be a dhyan. If I am giving a lecture, if I'm totally involved, the prana is involved in this process, that is meditation. Meditation is not just controlling your flow of thoughts and also, yogic, the transcendental meditation and so on. But meditation is, you can live a meditation life all through. It need not be only 15 minutes I am doing meditation. Your whole life is meditation. So if you start with that, Every action is your the meditation, dhyan. So dhyan is just not only concentration or just focusing on certain things. Dhyan is much more. So if I am giving a lecture totally involved, it's a dhyan. I am doing dhyan. If you are eating, the full involvement of your food in the evening in your dinner, that is dhyan. You don't have to do 15 minutes of meditation to do dhyan. The whole life can be dhyan. And this yogic practice, why do you want to do? Because the first thing is to maintain a good health, physical, mental, spiritual well-being, as per the definition of the health by WHO is not absence of disease, but it is physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. But you don't stop with good health. That is the starting point. But ultimately, what you want to achieve is the spiritual evolution. Why we have taken this Janma as human being, which is very, very rare to be born as a human being, but we are blessed to have that. So what is the purpose? Not only to maintain good health and make a family, make a possession, that all will incidental, but actually to raise your level of your spiritual existence, evolution, your consciousness. That is the purpose of taking this Janma, for which the prana is very, very important. So prana helps you to reach the higher consciousness and moksha. Now, it can be prophylactic, promotive, curative, and yoga, which includes prana as the main component, which I said. Yoga can become prophylactic, promotive, and curative. You name any disease, it will fall into any one of the 5 factors. Lack of exercise, because of the sedentary living, modern living, we don't use our limbs, our body, which was physically evolved to be tough, living in jungles, facing the vagaries of the climatic conditions, running away from predatory animals, hunting for the food. So this body was actually evolved to be of that type. But with our sedentary living, we don't use it. So it undergoes disuse atrophy. That is why your arthritis, cervical problem, low back pain, heart disease, diabetes, all because you have not used the system, physiological system, which was meant to be that life. So this is one disease causing factor. High risk for any disease is lack of exercise. Disharmony between mind and body. As I said, say you had lunch, many of us would have just what we would have done. I would have seen the mobile and put chapati inside. So my body is eating, my mind is seeing the news or the email on the mobile phone. So see the dichotomy. This is mind does the reading or seeing mail, and the body is throwing the food inside. It can cause disease. Like when I see my chapati and flavor or sambar and idli, immediately my saliva starts. As soon as I look at that, without even eating. So this saliva has to go and lubricate your digestive system. It has to throw that acid which is formed inside the stomach by presence of food, which is going to happen, and it has to go and neutralize that acidity, because very, very strong hydrochloric acid will be secreted, which is acidic. Now, relatively alkaline saliva has to go inside and neutralize. If it doesn't happen, then it is hyperacidity, peptic ulcer, irritable bowel syndrome. Then the peristaltic movement won't be proper because your mind is not involved. So indigestion, constipation, dyspepsia. So it's just a simple example of a dichotomy between mind and body can cause so many diseases. So this is the second cause for disease. Third is stress. We encounter stress of some kind or other in all our walks of life. So stress can become a etiological factor, causative factor, or it can become a precipitating factor if you have a genetic predisposition, or it can be an aggravating factor. If you have a disease, it will aggravate the symptoms and the condition of the disease. So this is the third factor. Fourth is pollution. The air that we breathe, water we drink, the food that we eat, it's all polluted, so it can cause disease. Fifth is infection, surrounded by pathogens, be it virus, bacteria, fungus, toxins, all these are there in the environment, so it can cause disease. And yoga, is prophylactic against all these 5 factors, leaving away genetically transmitted disease. Yoga is a total exercise, physical, physiological, neuromuscular, and kriya, and you are throwing out the oxygen debt as well as the lactic acid, pyruvic acid, massaging the internal organs, nauli kriya. So like that, it becomes a total exercise. Then this is taking care of the first factor. Second factor is dichotomy between mind and body. In yoga, if I am making a small movement like this, I am instructed to be conscious of that movement. If I am doing a pranayama, anolam vilom, I am instructed to be conscious of that air going inside, flowing and getting into the lung, energy flowing into the various systems. So you are instructed to be conscious of all that what we do. Suppose I drink a sip of water, I should feel that water going in. So this is yoga. So it removes the dichotomy between mind and body by unifying mind and body together. So second factor is taken care of. Third is stress. Yogic practice, particularly breathing, pranayama, which is, as I said, common denominator in yoga. It helps to normalize your perception, optimize your reaction, and release the stress as early as possible. This is what is stress management. Nothing but 3 steps. Normalize your perception. Your starting point for stress reaction is your perception. If you don't perceive that as a very stressful, highly stressful, then the response will be just moderate to cope up with a demanding situation. So it's all your perception. So yogic practice, pranayamic practice, it gives the right frame of mind and philosophy to perceive things. Like, I will do my duty well, and I have come with vasanas, sanskars, karmic account. So end result will be decided by many other factors. But what is in my hand, which I am responsible, is my action and response. So I will do it appropriately. So this kind of philosophy is given. So there is no stress because your perception of philosophy of life is different. Karmic, everything is karma. So you work in that spirit. So no, then it optimizes your reaction to stress by building the parasympathetic tone. It doesn't allow you to show exaggerated arousal. And parasympathetic tone releases the stress quickly, brings the equilibrium between sympathetic and parasympathetic to pre-stress level as early as possible. So takes care of the minimal change, minimal damage due to stress. Then pollution is the fourth factor. So yoga strengthens all your detoxification mechanisms like liver, kidney, spleen, reticuloendothelial system. All this is strengthened. So takes care of the fourth factor. Fifth is infection. Yoga strengthens your immunity, natural and cell-mediated immunity. I want to tell you, I am now 73. I have never been hospitalized once in my life. 73 years I have gone around the orbit, 72 and 73 I am in. So you can imagine, this is because of yoga. I have been doing it for 45 years now. So that has kept me not only active, alive, and productive, constructive, and also successful in life. So yoga makes you successful in life, happy in life. Success is not everything. You have to be happy. So I have found that in yoga. So not only I have experimented on yoga, but I have done the experiential learning through yoga, which I'm propagating in all over, wherever I go, I keep propagating this message. So yoga is prophylactic. Yoga is also promotive, because everyone has a potential, the Kundalini Shakti, the dormant energy, potential, talents. How do you make it surface? Something may be there in DNA, but DNA has to express to become a proteomics, from genomics to proteomics. So this expression of your potentials also will come through practice of yoga, which includes pranayama. Promotive. So yoga is promotive. It promotes all your potentials, body flexibility, suppleness. And if you are good in your work, giving lecture, or singing, dancing, whatever is your talent, it can be expressed. Yogic practice help you to express and maximize that expression. So yoga is promotive. It gives the right kind of concentration, memory, learning efficiency, eye-hand coordination, psychomotor performance. All this, we have evidences to show, not that I am just speaking, but there are scientific evidences from our own research work, as well as which I have done in DRDO and MIT University, as well as in the world literature. If you look at, you find all supporting documents for this. But I'm going to show some evidences also. Yoga is curative in some of these conditions, particularly stress-related, psychosomatic ailments, and also the lifestyle-related problems. Yoga can help you to cure. Or it could be used as adjunct therapy to support the conventional therapies. So these are some conditions in which yoga can be curative as well. Now coming to pranayama. The link between the physical asanas and mental, as I mentioned, even in the asana, pranayama is component of it. The breath regulation is a component. So you cannot dissociate in yoga any component of Ashtanga Yoga from pranayama. And in the breathing, you have three levels. One is the inhalation, retention, exhalation. You can call it as Purak, Kumbhak, and Rechak. So these are the three important the phases of your breath, that you inhale, hold the breath, and exhale. So these are the three, the Purak, Kumbhak, and the Rechak. Now, when you look at this, even in the retention, there are various subsystems, but you remember only these major components. Because in the breath, when you say Ujjayi Pranayama, deep inhalation, breath hold, exhalation. Even in Anulam Vilom, breath, deep inhalation, breath hold, exhalation. Then you repeat the cycle through the other side. So there are 7 types of pranayama, which you can. Now I'll go to the scientific evidences, which is much more important. There are benefits of pranayama. One is it controls aging, which I have experienced myself. In Amity University, there are 5 floors, and all 5 floors I never used lift. Even some students will use the lift, young children, but I just walk across at this age and run with them. So this helps in the aging process. Your internal organs, musculoskeletal, internal organs like liver, kidney, spleen, the vital signs, all these are aging is slowed down. Because how? What is the physiology? Yoga brings all your functions to the lower side of the normal range. If my heart rate, instead of being 80, which is also normal for my age, if it is a 60 per minute, my heart is resting and conserving the energy of 20 beats per minute. So you can imagine the wear and tear in the system will be much less. So it prolongs your health span, not just lifespan, health span. The aging process is delayed because the wear and tear in your internal organs is minimized. It also helps in smooth oxygen circulation. Oxygen, which is the very important component of the prana. It helps in weight regulation. So those people who want to reduce your, regulate your breath, this is very important. That even it helps in weight regulation. And also key to intelligence, because it strengthens your filter mechanisms, your pranayamic exercises. It strengthens your brainstem ascending reticular activating system, filter mechanism. Doesn't allow the noise to get in and disturb your concentration, memory, decision making. So it helps to, is the key to intelligence. It acts as a disease disruptor. I already given the example. Even disease will not start, because that starting point is acidic pH in the cell due to anaerobic metabolism, due to improper breathing. Then lung expansion, the vital capacity. Your vital capacity will be much better. And it also controls cardiovascular disease, smooth digestion, and so on. So it maintains good health, positive health. Now the experiments which I have shown I have done in the DRDO, and I have about more than 45 research papers on the physiological, biochemical, psychological, clinical aspects of yoga and how it is related to health promotion. I used soldiers as a model because I had the opportunity of dealing with them. it has a great advantage. Many variables which will enter into your study is regulated. Like, for example, I can have the same age group of people. I want 20 to 30 years of age, I will get that. I want the same ethnic population, I'll get that. All of them should be on a diet which is 3,500 kilocalories. They will be put exactly on that. And also everybody should get up at 5 o'clock and then do the exercise from 6 to 7. They will all do that 1 hour. So this is all possible in the military situation, whereas it may not be that possible if I carry out the similar study in a civilian population. So that is the advantage which I had in DRDO, Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences, Defense Institute of Psychological Research, and other laboratories. And we did a wonderful studies, a series of studies, not just one study, series of studies, where we had a control group, which is doing the routines of the 1 hour physical training program, which includes body flexibility exercise, the games, endurance building exercise, muscle power building exercise, which is all part of the PT program, physical training program, which they do 1 hour control group. In the experimental group, I had 2 experimental groups. One in which yoga was substituted for physical training. And the third one is yoga was supplemented to physical training. So you had 3 groups: control, who is doing routines of physical training program. Because in military situation, there are situations where you cannot do the routine physical training program, like a submarine, for example, or a soldier sitting at 22,000 feet altitude in Siachen Glacier. You cannot do the routine PT program over there. So can I substitute yoga, and thereby soldiers can maintain good health? That is the second. Then the third is, if I supplement yoga to the physical training, can I give additional benefit to the soldier? Because the modern warfare is not only physical power, muscle power, endurance, killer instinct, aggression. More is a cognitive war, decision making, multiple technology handling. All this require cognitive power, which you cannot develop only by physical training. So does yoga will give an additional advantage if I give it along with the physical training. So one side you build the physical potential, the other side the cognitive potentials, facing challenges, keeping good composed mind in the ambiguous situation in war. So will it help? Because yoga was taught to a warrior in the battlefield. Lord Krishna taught Arjuna in the battlefield. So why not we look at that for a soldier? So that third group was supplementation. These are some of the asanas, but pranayam, we had 4 types of pranayam: Ujjayi, we gave Anolam Vilom, Bastrika, and also Kapalabhati. Then we did the measurement using this kind of very sophisticated facility. Some of them I have shown here, some of them functional MRI, positron emission tomography. All this we apply to study this ancient Indian wisdom, to apply that for our soldiers and for their good health, as well as to keep our sovereignty of our country through the national security. So these are experiments. Here you are looking at their brain wave function, sleep monitoring, EEG, evoke potentials, and also you have breathing, all the complete respiratory function. Here their physical performance on a treadmill, bicycle ergometer, measuring the oxygen consumption, and putting them in the cold chamber, hot chamber to see thermal responses. How does the body respond to heat stress, cold stress, and put the hand in a water bath at 4 degrees to see the painful response. How does a person respond before he started with yoga, after 6 months of yoga? So we looked into quantitatively using this very, very highly sophisticated system. Some of them I have shown here. Now I'll just give the glimpse of the scientific results to illustrate what we really observed from there. This particular slide shows heart rate. HR means heart rate, blood pressure, systolic and diastolic. And here is the duration. Initial, both control and experimental group, how they were before they were inducted into the study, or at the initiation of the study. Then every month we monitor them for the physiological, biochemical, psychological, and clinical variables. So the message comes from this slide. Heart rate started coming down. These are basal heart rate. So you have resting heart rate and basal heart rate. What I'm showing is the basal heart rate. It came down from about 67 to 60. So this is within 6 months. 6 months, the heartbeat started coming down. If, as compared to control, it is taking 6 beats rest every minute. So the wear and tear is reduced. It's also indicator parasympathetic tone, vagal tone is building up, which is good for stress response. Breathing, systolic and diastolic BP comes to the lower side of the normal range. So all this is conservation of energy. Similarly, your breathing becomes slow, deep and slow. That means the rate decreases, but your depth of breathing increases. So the minute ventilation is increased. It's a more economic way of providing oxygen to your system. So breath rate decreases, depth increases. Similarly, when you looked at the heart rate variability spectrum, this is what is shown here, that it improves the parasympathetic tone. You will see the power increasing on the higher frequencies. So indicating that the parasympathetic tone builds up. Then your electroencephalogram, when you do this pranayamic exercise and the yoga, you find the alpha index going up, which is seen in this particular slide, one subject. See the alpha power before the person was inducted to yoga. After 6 months, see this power, see this amplitudes, and they see this. This is what is important, that you will be able to concentrate, relax, and unify your thoughts. So that is what that alpha frequency going up. This is also seen in the theta frequency. For example, here theta frequency is also power increases. So this is what is the power of your pranayama. Then we did the functional MRI, where you will see the right frontal activation happening, which is an indicator of your higher nervous function, decision making, your extrasensory perception. All this is possible by activating this prefrontal area. So we have found that during this pranayamic exercise and yogic practice and meditation, you find activation, which spreads from, like, let's say, from left prefrontal to the right prefrontal as well. Then it gradually goes to occipital as well. So you'll find in the next one the occipital. So this type of meditation with breathing regulation, pranayamic regulation, it also brings your higher nervous function, intelligence, decision making. You can even make intuitively the right decision. That power comes through this practice. Then this slide is important with regard to fatigue. Why do we get fatigued? When I do work, oh, I'm tired now, I can't do anything more, whether it's physical work or mental work. How does it happen? One of the important things is your breath. During that stressful activity, your system wants more energy. Your brain needs more energy, heart needs more energy, your metabolic system needs more energy, but that is given. But your breath is not all right if you go into anaerobic metabolism. That means the oxygen debt occurs. So in the process, lactic acid accumulates. One of the important metabolic end products of anaerobic metabolism is lactic acid. So you find here, this is control group before and after 6 months. Whereas you see here in yoga, before they inducted into yoga, this was the rate of buildup of lactic acid during this exercise at some maximal level of exercise. You will find that after 6 months of yoga, the blue graph which shows there's a rightward shift of the curve. That means the rate of buildup of lactic acid is slower in the people who practice yoga. That means they are getting energy through aerobic process, and the anaerobic process is limited. So that is why your fatigue will be much later as compared to a person who is non-practitioner. Say, like, I did so much of work today, so I'm coming back, and then again, you are energetic. So I see people working with 20 hours a day, 18 hours a day, but still they are not tired. They're vibrant, viable, lively. So this pranayama, right kind of breathing, gives you this because it keeps you at aerobic level, doesn't allow the accumulation of lactic acid, or minimizes, slows down the buildup of lactic acid. So your biochemical profile also shows relatively hypometabolic state. I will stop in a few 2 minutes because I want more discussion rather than only monologue. And I have already taken about an hour or so. So it also reduces your anxiety, which is shown here. Depression scores comes down. Your concentration improves from here, initial after 6 months. Your alertness of mind, vigilance score goes up. So your mind is very alert. So all this is because of the yoga pranayama. Your negative emotions come down, like hostility, anger, depression, impulsiveness. All this, you see the score going down, which we have measured it by questionnaires. Then the positive emotions, hope, happiness, quality of life, all this shows significant increase in the people who practice yoga and meditation and pranayama. Now, finally, last couple of slides. This is the mechanism. How do we achieve this? The balance. Why I have shown balance? It is samatvam yoga vichyate. Sympathetic, parasympathetic, Ida, Pingla. Ida is parasympathetic, Pingla is. So once you activate this, then ultimately equilibrium is at Sushumna, state of Sushumna comes in. This is what is yoga does. This is what pranayama does. It achieves the balance in terms of autonomic system, balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. In terms of prana, you can see Ida, Pingla, it becomes Sushumna, flow of energy. So this is what happens when you do this. So the message final carry home, clarion call is, let us promote at school level, college level, all like we have the Center for Soft Power. They are propagating, promoting. We have to do at global levels. Sarve bhavantu sukhilaha. Everybody, we want them to be happy, healthy, peaceful, prosperous. So we should promote. India should become the Vishwa Guru for promoting a new world order, a peaceful world. See, India, in all its 5,000 years of existence, never showed an aggressive posture on any country, yoga. It's because of this civilization, culture, spirituality. Because of this, we never invaded or showed even an aggressive posture. We always had Vasudeva Kudumbakam and also the Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha culture, philosophy in our genes, not just in your mind and heart. So let us propagate this in all our educational institutions. Let us also propagate in hospitals, because we don't want everybody to be sick and then go to hospital and get the treatment. We want to prevent the disease. And also the doctors should be healthy. Paramedical nurses have to be healthy. Let us promote among the health workers the culture of yoga. They should know yoga. They should practice yoga. And they should propagate, promote yoga in the health centers, wellness centers, and hospitals. And the next thing I would like to say in corporates, you see today, now Anolam Vilom. Now breathing, you just try Zen meditation, nothing but deep breathing with closed relaxation, conscious relaxation, mindfulness is all linked with prana, pranayama. So let us propagate this in corporates, particularly IT professionals who are very highly stressed. So let us promote among the corporates as well, all cross-section of the society. I have just shown some of them, very important, who we should promote, but then everyone should practice. All those who are listening, if you are not practicing yoga, please do that. Because I have both experimental learning through control experiments, experiential learning, being myself having practiced for 45 years. I learned from Vishwayat and Yogashram. So the final carry home message is, let us propagate this. And this is what is the Prime Minister, our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, Modiji's contribution to the humanity. One of the important contributions by our Prime Minister is the International Day of Yoga. Now he took our ancient Indian culture, the ancient wisdom of yoga, to the global level, to United Nations. Today, almost all countries in the world are practicing. So because he knew that we can, through yoga, promote good health, we can create a new world order, which will be seen by happiness, prosperity, good health, healthy world, happy world, we can create through yoga. So which he knew. So that is how the International Day of Yoga is being celebrated now on 21st June. We'll be celebrating. So all of you, please promote, propagate, create many activities in your own centers, so that this should make, this year we are going to make crores of people doing yoga. across the globe. So that is why all of you please do practice and promote in your centers the International Day of Yoga. And finally, the founder president of Abiti Group, who is also a large proponent of this yoga. He himself practices yoga and also the Indian systems and traditional knowledge. He always believes when God pushes somebody, inspires somebody, leads somebody, no power in the world can stop such a person. He is now 80 and he has developed 11 universities in India and 18 campuses abroad and 28 schools, including preschools, 185,000 students, 13,000 faculties, 5,000 PhD scholars in our campuses. We are promoting, we have established Amity Institute of Indian Systems of Medicine, where yoga, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy is taught. So the whole Ayush system, not only in one campus, but in all campuses. And International Day of Yoga is being celebrated everywhere. So what I want to say is, we need such leaders, and each one of you is a leader like him, not that only he is a leader. So I'm sure you would propagate. I see Dr. Vinambar Sharma, who is the one of the prime mover in Amity Institute of Indian Systems of Medicine. I asked him to join as well. So please let us work together and we will create a new world order. With that, I thank Professor Vijayalakshmi and also Varsha and Deepa Prakash, and she calls me Appa, father. So always she calls me. So thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share a few thoughts. And now we can maybe some questions if it is there. And if any of the participant would like to ask anything, you can also do that. So I leave it to you, Deepa, to coordinate.
Thank you. So at the outset, of course, plenty of questions. Thank you so much. You're a true yogi scientist. It was an incredible talk. Just didn't even feel like 2 minutes and it's suddenly over. It was absolutely incredible. I have a few questions, please. The role of prana for nutrients, nutritional bioavailability. Is there a correlation between prana and nutritional bioavailability, please?
Right. See, when you do this prana energy, as I said, the first is breath, which brings oxygen. But you need a substrate on which I'm talking like a physiologist now, not as a psychologist or philosophy person. So you need oxygen, which comes through our breath into the lung. As I said, it enters the hemoglobin, oxyhemoglobin, transportation through red blood cells, delivery through 2,3-DPG, and then the mitochondria taking over, energizing the release. And to release that energy, oxygen has to act upon a food substrate, which is glucose. So that is where the nutrition becomes very important, the balanced diet, because there are many coenzymes in your metabolism. Even in this reaction, like zinc, a trace element may be required. So that is how the nutrition and the breathing, the breath control, breath regulation, and the balanced diet, which is very important to produce the right kind of energy and the prana. So there is a good link. Your healthy diet, in fact, yogic diet, which is normally vegetarian, and also a high fiber, low fat, high fiber diet, which is prescribed in the yoga, and a vegetarian diet, because you become the personality, your gut microbiome, everything is dependent on your what type of food you take. So that is why the food becomes important part of your prana, and prana in turn is your atma. So that is why there is a link between always the pranayama or the breath control and the right kind of regulation of your diet, yogic diet, which will give the right kind of energy flow, right kind of energy generation as well.
Lovely, lovely. There has been times when the armed forces goes through significant stress, especially when you have to prevent collateral damage, low intensity conflict environments. What kind of asanas actually help you, be optimal at that kind of operation?
Right. See, the soldier's life is highly demanding. If you look at today, the challenges, both in eastern borders, western borders, internal security. So the comprehensive national security is the external aggression. You have to safeguard internal security, which is from the local law and order and internal security. Then you have economic security and the environmental security. So all of them becomes comprehensive national security. So today soldiers are entrusted with the whole responsibility of keeping our national sovereignty, which has all these components. So their responsibilities have increased. So naturally, the demand from the borders, as you see, Ladakh, there's a standoff, and also the incursion happening on the western borders, and also disturbances within the system internally. So the challenges are increasing. So that is why, how do we give that Atma Shakti to our soldiers? We are giving physical training, muscle power, you build everything, the endurance, killer instinct, aggression. But then how do you keep a composed mind? So you need to have that. So there is no pills like yoga pills. For this condition, you have to do this. But generally, there is a package of yoga, like common yoga protocol for the normal people. There is also, we have formulated a yoga protocol for soldiers who are in a different plane of fitness level. So we have prescribed that high altitude, there is another package which is given that they won't be able to practice very severe Surya Namaskar for a long time in Sachin Glacier. So we have given packages for various operational environments for the soldiers, which they can adapt. Submarine, for example. Submarine is a very close space, and sometimes they are there underwater for months together. So how do you keep the fitness in them? So another package for submariners. So this is being done by our Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences with the help of Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, which we are imparting. I'll be happy to tell you, Vinamber Sharma, who is here on the screen, he and Swati Madan, who is in Amity Institute of Indian Systems of Medicine, they gave training to Ladakh people. 100 people came for 2 months in Amity. Through the Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga and Amity together, we trained them. So like this, the training is being imparted to the soldiers going to high altitude. So the training of trainers happens by DIPAS, Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences. So where they train the trainers go to their units and train the people. Because there's a rotation of troops. Every 2 years, they are rotated back. So you need to have new training. So the training is a continuous process. Similarly, low intensity conflict, which you mentioned, there's a very high demand, psychological demand. Anytime, fear of the unknown, because from any direction, the trouble might come. So you have to face that. You need to keep cool at that time. So how do you give that? So we have certain packages there also in such conditions. So we have a different operational environment. We have different packages based on the package which they can practice in that situation, as well as which is required, which through our experience of research experience we have formulated.
I have one more question before Varshaji takes over. See, what are the kind of cardiological changes you see during the practice of Surya Namaskar?
Surya Namaskar is a very comprehensive, composite yoga practice where everything is there. All systems get activated. In fact, we have a publication on this Surya Namaskar. What does it do? First, we measured the cost of doing individual asanas, including Surya Namaskar. That means when you perform certain asana, how much oxygen consumption happens to perform that asana. Energy cost of energy to perform each asana. Surya Namaskar has got a very high energy demand to perform that. Unlike Shavasana may be the lowest. When you do that, least energy is required to perform Shavasana. And maybe when you do Sarvangasana, Ardhahalasana, Viparita Karni, Bhujangasana. So the energy level to perform that, the cost of performing, energy cost of performing those asanas is different for each asana. But Surya Namaskar is the highest energy consuming. So it heats up your system so much. So your heart rate goes up, the breathing becomes, sometimes even people go into anaerobic metabolism if their system is not adapted to that level. So that level of energy consumption takes place in Surya Namaskar. And it gives the maximum benefit. One asana having maximum benefit like Sarvangasana. This is Surya Namaskar is very, very important component of the exercise. And I'm sure that it's being taught to many people, and many people may be practicing it as well. And they also share their experiences. So thank you, Deepa. And if any other questions, you see the chat box and
Yes,
QA.
please. Varsha will be taking over, and my congratulations to Dr. Vinamra Sharma and your colleagues. Thank you so much. Over to you, Varsha.
Yeah. Dr. Sellamurthy, there are about 3 questions that are up by the audience.
Right.
Aditi asks, Namaste, Dr. Sellamurthy. Are these aspects given any credence by Western doctors, medical systems, etc.? I'm asking for someone living abroad, struggling with a very complex disability with no support, medical or otherwise, and struggling to survive. Do you think others will be open to accepting the knowledge you shared in your presentation? Anything else we need to be aware of before approaching them to get them to help with these? This is her question. So.
Right. See, the whole purpose of doing these research is to unravel and place the yoga and the traditional knowledge on a scientific pedestal. The Western world, or even our Indian world, now today, a youngster will ask, show me the evidence that it is going to help me. So you need, through well-controlled experiments, demonstrate the beneficial effects on an unbiased manner. So that is why you need to have a control group, you need to have an experimental group, and then see the difference which is happening. So all this we need to demonstrate to the world. This is what we are doing now through these experiments. When we show, people believe. Then, for example, everybody claims hypertension is can be cured or treated or ameliorated by practice of yoga. But then, what is the mechanism? So people will ask, how does it work? We did experiments to show that. Why I am telling you scientific evidence are important. What I did, I took 40 patients of essential hypertension, randomly divided them into 2 groups, control group and experimental group. Control group was put on a table which is tilted to 70-degree head up or 35-degree head down. So the patient has to do is just lie down on this table. The table itself will be tilted 70-degree head up or 35-degree head down. Why I did that, I will tell you. Then the second group, experimental group, where I selected asanas, which will involve a postural tilt. Like, for example, when you do Bhujangasana, Dhanurasana, Surya Namaskar, head is up, leg is down. So this is the asanas involving a head up tilt. Then I took asanas which involve head down tilt. Like, for example, Ardha Halasana, Viparita Karni, Sarvangasana. All this involve head down tilt. That is, head is down, leg is up. So there are 2 groups. One is the control group, which is passively lying and the table is tilted. The other group, actively, they are practicing yoga asanas, which involves a postural tilt, head up or head down tilt. So then I measured, the hypothesis was, there are certain sensors in your artery supplying the brain, which is known as carotid arteries. These carotid arteries have a sinus, which is baroreceptors, that is pressure sensors, which are there on the carotid sinus and the bifurcation of the carotid artery, which is supplying the brain. So this is a pressure receptor which goes bad in hypertensive patients. That is why hypertensive patients tend to fall. Morning when they get up in the bed, when they go to bathroom, they fall down because their orthostatic corrective mechanism is sluggish. This baroreceptor, which is like a sentinel keeping watch on the blood pressure, has gone to sleep. So all the other pathophysiological changes put the seal of hypertension. Now, can I wake up this sentinel who has gone to sleep by doing this head up, head down tilt? When I do head down tilt, there is a stretch in the baroreceptors. The pressure sensors are stretched because the whole blood pools in the lower part of the head and neck region. So stretches the receptor. When I do head up tilt, the stretch is removed. So alternately stretching the receptors and removing the stretch, I'm reactivating the sluggish baroreflex, which in turn corrects all the other pathophysiological change like your catecholamine comes down, then the renin-angiotensin mechanism gets corrected, blood electrolytes get corrected. So this has a unifying role. This is what is the demonstration which I gave. So we published a paper, how yoga brings the blood pressure back to normal. This is what is required. So if the Western world has to believe that, process by which yoga corrects the hypertension back to normal.
Thank you, Dr. Saramurthy. The next question is, pranayama increases oxygen saturation. Is it utilized for ATP or just in blood? Sometimes I think it is present in blood bonding with hemoglobin. It's a question by Anurag Jaiswal.
Say it again.
Pranayama increases oxygen saturation. Is it utilized for ATP or just in blood?
Right. See, actually, when you take the pranayama, when you do deep breathing, providing enough oxygen, it goes to the system. What is required, it is utilized. Not that it is, but what is made is ATP is the end point. Ultimately, this oxygen has to work on the substrate and release the ATP, synthesize the ATP. So you have storehouses of energy. So energy can be stored. So when we do that, you are actually, whether it's glycogen reserves or ATP reserves, which you have stored during restful time, is depleted and utilized for oxygen. So when you give enough oxygen, your storehouses, energy storehouses are enriched, replenished. So that is why you will all the time will have enough energy reserves with you. This is what happens when you do pranayama. And also your energy expenditure reduces. So because your system is conservation of energy. Your metabolism, all your body functions come to the lower side of the normal range. So thereby your energy expenditure reduces. So it is very economical. So you don't deplete too much of energy in the restful condition. So your reserves are better, which could be utilized during either physical exertion or your mental activity. So it is actually stored as energy, ATP reserves and glycogen reserves.
The next question is by Tej Mucherla. They ask how much of carbon dioxide is actually good for the body.
See, carbon dioxide is also good. Carbon dioxide is a big vasodilator, and you people know that there are chemoreceptors which senses not only oxygen but also carbon dioxide. There are peripheral chemoreceptors, central chemoreceptors, which can sense. Peripheral chemoreceptors primarily the oxygen sensing, central chemoreceptors primarily CO2 sensing, and the CO2 is also important. Why do you do kumbhak? Kumbhak phase is you are allowing the carbon dioxide to be there in the system so that the pH at the tissue level relatively becomes acidic. So your precapillary sphincters open up. You know, this relative acidity at the cellular level or tissue level, it opens up the perfusion. The micro perfusion at the tissue level increases because of the CO2, which is there, which is causing relatively alkaline, the acidic pH, which opens up the precapillary sphincters and the perfusion improves. So that the oxygenated blood now can perfuse the system very freely because the precapillary sphincters open up. So this is why the CO2 is also very important for us. It's a very good vasodilator itself. So some level of CO2, then you are throwing it out completely. After that kumbhak, then you have rechak. That is, you are eliminating all that CO2 accumulated. This is the philosophy of your breathing. You are taking vital capacity of your breathing through inhalation, holding the breath for you to you don't require time for diffusion, but you require time for CO2 to create that acidic pH momentarily there, which in turn will improve the perfusion. Then you are throwing that carbon dioxide out. So this is the physiology of our pranayama.
That's wonderful, sir. There's one question by Karen Barry. They ask if there's a link to the experiment on hypertension that you mentioned earlier.
Yes, I have published this in the Indian Journal of Medical Research, and if someone wants, I can send the reference to that. This is a published work.
Okay, yes, sir. I think that is all with the questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to
So
Vijayalakshmi.
I think Deepa, you can send that paper and
Yes,
from my
please.
office, the essential hypertension. The
Yes,
title is a new method, new physiological method to control essential hypertension. That is the title of that paper.
I'll coordinate with your office and pass it. Thank you
Right.
so much.
So do we have, Auntie, do we have one more? Can we have one more question?
Please
This
do.
is one more question. There's one last. Could you please shed more light on how pranayama and yoga work specifically on blood cancers like myeloma? It's a question by Sunny Hita.
Right. See, I would like to prevent cancer instead of looking for somebody to become cancer patient and then look for a treatment through yoga. I would say stop getting cancer, for which, as I said, the inflammation is the first cause. The second is apoptosis, the normal process by which the regulation of the cell multiplication and death happens, programmed cell death. If it doesn't happen properly and the cell loses the control in the proliferation, then it just keeps on proliferating without any control. So the first thing is if you keep breathing normally, deep and aerobic without causing inflammation through improper breathing, you will avoid cancer. So first thing is all of us, chemo prevention. Before you go to chemo prevention, your cancer prevention should be given focus rather than. And when you practice yoga, as I said, somewhere it could be due to carcinogens in the food, carcinogens in the environmental air, all this like bisphenol and plastics. So all this can cause cancer. So your system, God has given you detoxification mechanisms like liver, kidney, spleen, reticuloendothelial system. This yoga and pranayama will strengthen all this detoxification systems, mechanisms God has given in our physiology. So this will prevent cancer. So what I want to say is it'll keep the normal vascularization, angiogenesis, cell multiplication. If your prana is all right, the energy flow, you will prevent disease. You will prevent including cancer. Then the second is cancer. After having got it, that you can even cause regression. And this is, we have not done any experiments on cancer. I have done on other, but cancer, it has not been done. But quantum healing, if you do read that book by Deepak Chopra, and he has actually shown patients, case studies, where the cancer regressed by this type of meditative practice, yoga, pranayamic practice. So please do read that quantum healing book by Deepak Chopra, where individual case studies of cancer has been shown there. Third is, we did a study. I did a study. I was the coordinator for breast cancer patients. In breast cancer patients, I worked with Bangalore Cancer Research Foundation. There is a Brinda Sitaraman and Kilara in the Bangalore Cancer Research Foundation, in which we did a wonderful study. So we took 60 patients of breast cancer who underwent mastectomy and then radiotherapy, chemotherapy. Then we looked at the spouses who are part of the system. They are not, patients are not alone. How much support the wife receives or the subject receives from the spouse, caregivers. So we took a systemic approach to study this. So what we did, psychoneuroimmunological axis we looked at. That is perceived stress of the patients. Perceived stress. Oh, my breast is gone. I am ready. Chemotherapy is so toxic. You imagine the stress level of that lady or the subject patient. So this is going to influence the progression of the disease or prognosis of the treatment. So what we measured was perceived stress was measured by anxiety, questionnaire, trait anxiety, state anxiety, and also stress level through neurohumoral measurements. We did sympathetic, parasympathetic activity, cortisol measurement, catecholamines, adrenaline, noradrenaline, which is the sympathoadrenal axis. Then we measured at the tertiary level CD4, CD8, NK cell, PHA. These are all immune cells, psychoneuroimmunology. So we looked at those cell-mediated immunity by CD4, CD8, NK cell, natural killer cell, and PHA. Then we looked at the coping strategy. Each patient adopts his own. Somebody practices meditation, somebody does pranayama, somebody gets counseling, somebody gets support from the spouses and the system, from the family. So we measured what is the coping strategy adopted by these patients. Then we did a multivariate analysis to see that what type of coping strategies will ultimately correlate with the prognosis of the patient or progression of the disease. Finally, the message of the study gave was that besides doing surgical removal, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, you need to give psychotherapy. You need the emotional support. If you are healing only the body, there is no complete cure. You need to give mind-body approach to healing of cancer. This is where pranayama, yoga, it all helps you to, besides doing all that conventional medical management, if you supplement this, in addition to the psychological counseling and emotional support from the system, whether spouse or caregivers or family, then the prognosis will be better. So yoga can be used for preventing cancer. It can be used to treat cancer. It can also rehabilitate and give a better quality of life to the cancer patients.
All the other questions, Varsha, you can just tell them to give the email addresses so that we can communicate with sir and send them back the answers.
Yes.
Namaskar, sir. Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful, very informative talk with so much of depth and so much of knowledge that has gone into all these studies, that this is what we need to for people to understand the value of yoga and pranayama. Because otherwise, somewhere, we don't really have enough value for what is our own. So I think for today's generation, this today's approach of what they call science has to be there for them to understand the value. Thank you so much, sir. And it's so nice that you've taken so much effort and spent this 2 hours with us. We look forward to a lot more interactions with you, sir. And Deepa, thank you very much for being there. You're a part of us, so I don't think I should be even thanking you. And I thank the audience, and Namaskar and Shubharatri. With your permissions, we will end the meeting now.
Thank you, Professor Vijayalakshmi. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Varsha, and all the participants. And have a peaceful, helpful, happy, and let's create a happy world. That's what my rest of my life ambition is, to create a happy world.
So maybe we can just chant Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah.
Yes.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaha, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice
Namaste.
day. Namaste.
Namaskar.